Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Friday morning trading room. It's been a little bit tough slogging the last few days, but hopefully today will be a little bit more cooperative. Just a few minutes into the open. This is the NASDAQ that we're looking at here this morning. As usual, I'm also following crude and soybeans. And we're kind of flip-flopping here a little bit. Here the hawk kind of shows us a pretty good picture of what's going on. We've got a lot of yellow bars going on through here. Had a little itty-bitty first macro cross signal just prior to the open. I don't know if that actually found its profit objective. No. Did hit its break-even trigger, which is probably a good idea. And today, I don't think I'm going to get so cute with the market. I don't think I'm going to try to run it out. Rather, I think I'll just try to take profit when it makes itself available. Okay, so it looks like the market trying to establish a range here this morning. We're down here testing the bottom end of the overnight session. You can see the eagle very, very range bound, as we suspected things would be yesterday. Market just kind of bouncing back and forth a little bit. And here we are again near the bottom end. We did produce a hard edge bounce signal. Everything is in sync now. The ATR is in sync. We actually waited for the ATR to turn over. You could use this bar right here as your entry and use the current bar to establish a second push. This is a little risky because we haven't really got a direction going just yet. But we'll see if they keep falling off like this. We might see a little bit of a downtrend here, a little bit of a poke to the short side as the market tries to retest. We're already through yesterday's lows. What about the day before? Yeah, the day before. Oh, and here we go. All right, so this now on the NQ. On the Eagle. And getting a comparable signal here on the Hawk. This is a red bar buy signal, which you could short the failure of. I would probably look short below here as well. And let's see, we're working a possible trend change signal here on the Falcon. So the trend line has changed color. We've got the down, here's the up. We've got the warning dots working on the next down portion, but nothing just yet. And here on the Raptor, You could make a case for a double pullback. There's pullback one, there's pullback two. Here prices are coming out. So we've got a couple opportunities here. We'll frame this one up to. I would not get too terribly committed. I probably would, well, you know what? Let's do this like we're doing it for real. We're going to go in here with a onesie. Just throw a single on there. And again, I would enter below that low, I think, rather than right on the hash mark. Okay, they're trying here. Floundering a little bit. Very, very neutral bar. You see how this bar is taking a lot of time to develop. That's a very important bar for this market. Crude oil also a little sideways-ish. Here's crude oil on the Eagle now. Nice rally yesterday. Today kind of drifting a little bit sideways mode. Not sure we're going to see a full-out reversal. For this market, but it may also end up in a sideways range. No signal just yet on crude oil. All right, so here we go. We got the big move now, and you can see all that volume, the breakdown, and I guess I better go to stop and play here. So here our Hawk trade almost to the break-even trigger. And as we were discussing yesterday regarding break-even triggers, I tend to put them about 3/4 of the way to the profit objective. I think that's a pretty fair target. Okay, hooray for us. So we're short here on our Raptor signal. We're also short here on the Eagle. Just wanted to point out here really quick, we did get a comparable signal here on the Falcon as well. And a nice little bounce off of the primary support line. All right, so the Raptor now at break even. Maybe I'll adopt a more aggressive stop strategy in case the market continues to trickle off from here. See, it's so much more difficult to manage a single contract. Whenever possible, you should try to trade two contracts, if your account allows. But it just gives you so many more options. In this case, of course, we have, about $50, $60 in open profit. It looks like here near the lows, we probably would have hit our first profit target, which is $100. So we could already have $100 in the account, and then we could be trying to manage an additional contract a little bit further. Let's see if Greg's in the room here this morning. No, he's not. I'll answer Greg's question anyway. Greg emailed me, and he said, Eric, I see that sometimes you take the profit target off, and you try to run out the trade. What are your considerations for doing so? Well, usually I'll do that if I'm just trading a single contract, and very often in the morning, or also toward the close, because that's a lot of times when the market's going to make its biggest moves. Sometimes during the day, you don't, like right in the middle of the day, you don't get the really big move. But then going in toward the close, that's when you get the bigger moves, when there's a little bit more volatility coming back into the market. And of course, out of the open. Now, yesterday, not a very good example. Yesterday, kind of quiet all the way around. But this was the move in the morning. These two moves kind of occurred near the close. And so that's the consideration. When in doubt, go all in, all out on target. I'm convinced that at least 70, 80% of the time you will do better by going all in, all out on target than if you try to put a runner in play. Now, runners are great when you obviously catch a huge move. Problem is the market's not always trending. Right? It goes down a little, then it goes up. And sometimes it goes up a little more. Well, now all of a sudden you're faced with a management dilemma. What do you do? So, especially when you're starting out, I think it's going to do a lot for your confidence. It's going to help your account if you just go all in, all out on target. So here the Eagle trade still floundering a little. I think we can bring our stops in above these highs. No point in leaving them all the way back here above yesterday's range. We'll work on today's range and hopefully we'll see the market continue a little bit lower here. A fairly decent push lower by the sellers here at the moment. Oh, sorry. Thanks, Tony. Tony says, what happened to the audio? Yeah, sorry, that's just me sitting on my mute button again. Um, did you guys hear my little bit about Greg's question about taking a single contract when I decide to try to run a trade out? Okay, good, thanks. Just so I don't repeat myself too often, goodness knows I do that enough. Okay, the NQ fighting lower. Looks like we're going to have a half decent move to the downside today. I'm reluctant to say that because we're still working this eagle trade and we seem to have some sort of resistance going on here. Well, you know what? This is close enough to my 3/4 target that I think I'm going to bring this trade to break even. And I did have break even plus 10 ticks. Remember yesterday we were doing that? We had break even plus 10 ticks. Come on, get going. Come on. Don't make me pull out the magic mouse. Oh my goodness, just hovering above the break-even trigger there. All right, well, we'll put that on the shelf as well as we encounter a little bit of a reversal. Wow, buyers really stepping in here, um, pushing the market up almost to where we sold off here before. So there was our signal. Again, I was a couple ticks late on the signal. Not that that's a real big deal, but we would have hit our break-even target regardless. Andrew's asking, where are you short from, Eric? Right here on the Eagle. So this is how it developed. So here's our signal on the Eagle. It's a hard edge bounce signal. We were against the ATR. So the next bar traded through the ATR, flipped the ATR over. So this now effectively becomes our signal bar. So I shorted below that bar, and we actually caught a little bit of a move lower, and now we're floundering as the buyers try to buy the market up again. I think we're going to see one more push lower here. It just depends whether or not we're going to be able to ride this out before getting tagged at break even. those thinkers are going to nip me here in a second. Doggone it. Well, that's annoying. I'm just going to change my break-even parameters here, if you bear with me for a moment. So I'm going to go, oops, not data series, to my strategies window, disable my trade manager. So just going to turn that off. And here we go, break-even trigger, break-even offset. I'm just going to change that back to 1. All right. Oops, sorry. Forgot to apply. There we go. Now I can make my changes. Change that back to 1. Or will I? You know what? Maybe we will leave that at 10 ticks. Why not? All right, so here we are, fairly neutral again. Getting a lot of overlap once more into yellow bars. Producing a green bar. Oop, we were producing a green bar cell there, and that's since disappeared. So no longer a selling attempt going on the hawk. Crude oil just producing a first micro-macro cross signal here. Sorry, a little bit late on that, but I think we might be able to still sneak into that one. No, it's not going to let me, so we'll try it on a limit. A little bit tight for crude oil, but it is a first micro-macro cross signal, so I'm hoping there's going to be a little bit of follow through there. We keep drifting. Soybeans getting a little bit more bullish. Here's soybeans now on the Falcon. A little bit of a jumbled mess, but we are producing a buy signal, which is also a late filter entry signal. Nice thing about this trade is you could probably cover it below the lows of this range. Yesterday, the market, big move up, big move down. So we may see another one. Oops, stop it. So we'll go 1 tick above, cover below. There we go. Stop that. Yeah, it's not below the market. Oh, yes, it is. Sorry. Okay, why are you doing that? The market's not at 1003. Okay, well, I'm having a little bit of difficulty there with my data feed. I'm not going to disconnect it right now and reconnect, but I have a feeling that's what it needs. It needs a disconnect and a reconnect to make things right. Okay, we did get a green bar sell here while I was messing about with that on the hawk. Just another messy day. Just to show you that Falcon signal, if you were able to get on board that one. So we were looking here, covering down here. I do extend my profit objective for the soybean market because it does tend to have some very good follow through, as you can see. Once it settles on a direction, it seems to trend quite nicely. All right, just waiting for a fresh signal to develop. Nothing really going on in the NQ right now. Very, very neutral. Um, let's see. Russell's asking, what about a red bar buy on the crude oil Eagle? Yes, sir. Yeah, good eye, Russell. That's definitely a red bar buy signal right there. Now, we have breached the hard edge twice, which is a little bit of a concern. And we have seen something that is resembling a retest of the high and a possible failure. So this may be the beginnings of a rule of three type scenario where if we print the third signal counter trend and we keep making lower highs, well, that could suggest that crude oil is going to try to head a little bit lower. But you're right, it is a red bar buy signal. It is a high probability signal. You would probably want to, um, wait for the ATR to come into sync. So that will make this bar right here, this last red bar, your signal bar. Stops should go below the low here somewhere. And of course, that's going to be out of my reach, but I don't think you want to crowd this trade too much. And you're going to want to watch it as it gets closer to this high here. If it comes up here and then flinches, at least for one bar, it depends how anxious you want to get. If it flinches for one bar, then you could bring your stops up a little. If it flinches for 2 bars, then I think, come on, bar. Then I think it's time to start adjusting the stops, as you may be looking at a rule of 3 type situation. So you may opt for the earlier stop out, effectively cutting your risk in half, it looks like. But you're right, that is a red bar buy signal. Very good. Or you could just flat out take profit up here. You'll probably have 150 or almost $200 in open profit. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so the buyers trying to recover the market, still kind of struggling with these highs here. Um, yeah, Keith is asking, is there a soft edge buy coming on the Raptor? Yes. Yes, there certainly is. So if we produce a buy signal here now, we have had our retest of the low, and there's a soft edge buy. Overall, the market bias does seem to be down, at least for the very short term. You see, here was out of the open. The market made this push lower. Now we're recovering a little bit. So this almost has a bear flag flavor to it. But you're right, it is a soft edge buy signal. I think I would prefer the double pullback. I think I would prefer to see it come out here, produce another sell signal. right, so it seems to be holding through these highs. Wow, lack of follow through is probably a great way to describe this market. Okay, so I'm just going to focus here on the Raptor. We're going to get comparable signals on the Hawk and the Falcon as well. But here we've had pullback 1, we've come out, we produce a signal. Pullback 2, we're coming out. If we produce a sell signal here, that could be worth trying to short. And again, the reason is in case this is really just a bear flag. Wow, this is a tough bar for the market. They've been fighting this bar for a while now. It goes up a little bit, comes down a little bit, goes up a little bit, comes down a little bit. It just when you thought there was going to be some follow through, it's quiet across the board though. Excuse me. Come on. Come on down. You know you want to. Wow, the sideways ranging is just brutal. Crude oil here on the Falcon pretty much shows the picture. It's like a roller coaster ride, isn't it? It's so evenly balanced. Look at our trend line up and down and up and down. Each swing equal to the last. Well, it is Friday in August. And Tony says it's so quiet. Let's talk about scenic Moose Jaw. Oh, the mosquitoes will be pretty thick in Moose Jaw right now, I think. We have friends who are next week traveling back east for a couple of weddings. One, I think, in Montreal, and the other one in Saskatchewan on the way back. And they also have family in Michigan, so yeah, they'll be fighting mosquitoes pretty much all the way. That's one thing about living on the West Coast. When we first moved here to the West Coast, I was born and raised in Alberta, right in the heart of the oil patch. And mosquitoes, you know, it's a way of life on the prairies. You get your warm summer nights and you go outside as a kid to play in the long grass. Well, forget it, the mosquitoes are all over you. But here, when we moved to the West Coast, the first thing I noticed is that there were no screens on the windows. And I thought, what's with that? Well, it's because the salt water, there's not as many bugs out here on the West Coast. Oh yeah, if you go into the bush, there's lots of mosquitoes, and uh, if you go up island a little bit, there's a ski resort, Mount Washington, that we used to have a business at, and you get into the bush there, and the horse flies and deer flies, they're almost big enough to pick you up and carry you away. All right, well, we got a little bit of a bullish push here now. So there's that soft edge buy signal. And we've hit our break-even trigger. I guess that'd be a good time to get a stop and play, wouldn't it? There we go. Yeah, Steve knows what I'm talking about. Steve says, the West Coast, I live 7 blocks from the beach in Santa Monica. No bush here. No, but you get out of the city. There's some nasty bugs in Southern California, too. I've been there. I know. You can't fool me. All right, so the big rally now. And once again, if I just took profit on target, we would have already reached our profit objective, which was $100. But I forgot I had my runner in play on this one, so we'll let the runner do its thing. Not much else going on at the moment, so we may as well play with that trade. I suspect this is going to be maybe another trading range kind of day. We're back here now to the top end of the range where we started the morning. And we got up here pretty quick, which tends to suggest that there's not much selling going on the way up, that the sellers are looking to short from up here, which they will in just a moment here. You're going to see the sellers try to knock the market down. Really, they will. Okay, so our little trade here doing not too bad with a runner on it. That's a really good rally. Okay, now we're seeing some of that selling resistance come back in. By the way, those of you who are watching crude oil, we now have a rule of 3 in crude oil. I would probably suggest rather than enter right here on the hash mark, enter below the lows. Seeing how we're already a little late on that trade. Doggone crude oil. How tight do I have to frame it? Well, there you go. So you could be looking for a little bit of a breakout lower there on crude. If it takes out the lows. Oh, I missed that one too. I really got to stop watching the other charts. Tony's bemoaning the late filter entry signal he missed. Absolutely right. Right here, late filter entry. Filter goes out of sync, comes back into the sync. The trend line never changes color, produces a buy signal, and away you go. So the Raptor's still plotting higher. Maybe time to get a little bit more aggressive with our stops, but we'll let this one play out. Wow, look at them go. Well, that's crazy. I don't know what news just hit the marketplace, but obviously it was very good. Wow, that's a crazy range. I'll take it. And Gary says there's no reports today. I know. The market will do what the market will do. You can read reports and whatnot to get a general bias on the market, but as far as the day-to-day stuff goes, I don't think that's as effective. Keep going. Come on, don't stop now. Market obviously very bullish. Crude oil at a standstill. Soybeans pretty flat also. Okay, so the parabolic's moving our stops in rather aggressively, which is nice. That's what we're looking for. So the sellers just evaporated on this move higher here. There should have been some more selling effort on this breach. You can see this little candle right here with this tiny little tail. That's where the sellers tried to hop on board, but they just got steamrollered over. And so now they reserve their selling here above the 48.14 area. Well, they're still holding. Buyers not willing to give it up just yet. And first micro macro cross signal, of course, very, very difficult to take. Well, not difficult to take, but realistically, you need to cover it all the way back there. Now, by the way, this is rare. This is rare that you get a market that runs away like this without giving you a chance to get in. But once every couple months or so, we see that runaway type market. You see, we had subsequent signals on the Falcon. I suppose we had a rule of 3 type signal here on the Eagle. No, not really. But the Falcon and the Raptor certainly nailed it. So not much else going on here at the moment. Well, what do we think? You think it's going to break higher or lower here? My goodness, it's, except for that rally now, it's dead across the board again. Oh, look at that. They may pull it off yet. The buyers, I mean. Oh, look at them go. Wow. So that first micro macro cross signal that we were looking at back here, I guess we didn't need to cover it all the way down below the lows. Could cover it there. And those crazy buyers rallied that market higher still. Well, I'm glad we got at least one decent trade here this morning. Yeah, I know, Ralph. I was hesitant too. Ralph says I was a little worried about taking that second signal. It wasn't the signal itself, right? It's a first micro-macro cross. We know it has about an 80% chance of reaching its profit objective. The problem is, where do we cover this, right? As when this was printing, it looked like this. Where are we going to cover this? Well, ideally below the swing low, but we already determined that was out of reach. So if you're going to take it, where are you going to take it? Well, maybe cover this swing low. Nope, still out of reach. When in doubt, I go for the crest of the macro line or micro line, whichever you want. That one's out of reach too. All right, so what's left? Well, the macro line. So those are kind of all reasonable places to place the stop. The reason, of course, if the market brought you in and then decided to retrace a little deeper, which is a fair assumption on summer trading, we may have to ride out a little bit of a swing before the next move up. The direction was not such a tough call. You know, it should be pretty obvious to everybody right now that we're in a bull market, at least today. The buyers have this market well in hand. The logistics of this trade were a little bit more difficult. And as it turns out, you could have placed your stop right below that low and still had a successful trade. But this Raptor trade is amazing me. To have this kind of follow through, actually ride out one of the first swings. Crude oil still dead. Soybeans still dead. right, well, it looks like the ride might be over now as the seller's stepping in. And I think we're going to get stopped here in a moment, and that'll be a great way to finish this morning's session. As honestly, there does not seem to be anything else going on here at the moment. Come on. All right, well, they're not going to stop me out, so I guess we'll just stay with this trade a little bit longer. We are going to button up the room, however, so have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and I will see you again Monday morning. We'll talk to you then. Bye for now.